Hi and welcome to the depot update for December 2019. Since my last update in mid-November, there has been a massive change to the visual appearance of the depot itself. As you can see in front of you now, the tracks are all weathered and grimed up, as is the surrounding ballast. The main lines have been ballasted and weathered as well. I'm now starting to fit some of the smaller line side details, such as the point motors and the point heaters, AWS ramps and that kind of thing. So what I'm going to do in this update is I'm going to take you from one end of the depot to the other, show you what's been going on, and in between I'll show you steps of how I did it. Okay, it's a little run through. Some might be speeded up with music just to stop you from nodding off, but I'll take you basically through what I've done this month. It might not look a lot, but I've spent about 25 to 30 hours up here with an airbrush in the last 3 weeks. From weathering the side of the tracks, which is the first step in track weathering for me, to then feathering in the different tones on top of the sleepers and surrounding ballast, and then going heavy weathering with the Hattons oil spill solution on the stabling points and sidings in the actual depot. So hope you enjoy it. Lots been going on, lots to still happen, but visually we've made a big leap forward. Right, starting at the main entrance to the depot. As you can see, this has been ballasted and blended in with the previous ballast, which stopped around about here. So all this is kind of new. So hopefully you can't see where it's been joined on. The paints that I use for weathering, and you'll see them as I go through the video. First is a base coat of rail match sleeper grime, and that goes on the rail sides, several passes. There's a video on how I weather track. I'll put the link at the end of the video so you can have a look at it. I then go over some roof dirt, again from rail match paints. These are both enamels, and then I go in with some precision paints, oil leakings, and this really happens more in the depot area where there is more traffic going at slower speeds, dropping all your oil and sitting for a period of time. So it's been varied depending on what level of traffic the actual line receives. This area here has been left without a ballast cover. As I pointed out in the previous update, that is just postcrete that gives it a kind of gravelly, browny, muddy appearance. I've not ruled out putting some vegetation there, some buddly eye weeds, but I don't want to go over the score with this. At the back, at the wall, you'll see these relay boxes. Don't panic, they will be getting weathered as well. They're not fixed down or anything just now, they're just put there to kind of test the appearance. And all along the front of the wall will be weeds and vegetation encroaching into the ballast shoulder as we move into the depot area here. Moving around to this part of the depot, we've got well, I suppose you can call a focal point in my scratch built depot office. I've not done anything to this area in the last month, but this will be getting barriers to stop the cars getting too near the tracks. I've got my fuel storage tanks, my vertical fuel storage tanks that is. They'll sit here with the boiler house next to it. They'll kind of be done within the next 3 or 4 weeks. So this really from here onwards I should be working to finish this seam towards the retaining wall. You can see with the ballast here it's received more of a heavier weathering than say the entrance and the main lines here. This has gone heavier with the oil, and I've also added some Hattons oil solution in here as well, just to give it another varied tone. What you don't really want is the samey tone all the way through, and you'll see that as I go through. I've tried to vary the tones depending on the traffic. People will ask why you use certain colours and why you done it such a way. I've tried as closely as possible to match the photographs that I've been working from. Now I've worked from copious amounts of photographs of Eastfield depot in Glasgow, Haymarket depot, depots basically all over the country, even up to Inverness and Aberdeen. I've really looked at the weathering next to the track, the colours of ballast that were used in the Scottish region at that time, which was the kind of grey granite appearance. So I've tried to authenticate it for my area. Yes, there'll be people out there who could do it better or think I should go dirtier, but I'm only trying to follow photographs for the specific era that I'm modelling. Right, looking at this view here, we've got the single lane shed with its hard standing, and you notice I've grimed and oiled that up as well, again with traffic sitting there and passing in and out, and I've obviously feathered it to the edges as well. It's not just confined to the centre. Moving further back, I've done the same with the hard standing for the 2-lane shed, and we've got this kind of oil tank there. That is a Unit Models kit that you can buy pre-painted or unpainted. I brought this one pre-painted many years ago, and I've kind of chopped the fake concrete base off it, tidied it up, and I've planted it in there, and I've given it a bit of weathering round about with the same paints I discussed in the previous clips, just to give it the appearance that it's been there for a while. And there's obviously grime and stuff around about it. Maybe not finished with that yet. I might do a repaint and put my own style in there, but certainly just now it's quite effective. Looking at the main lines here, it's kind of a more browny tinge to the weathering. Not gone so heavy with the oil on this particular stretch of track. You can see the cable trunking has been given a good weathering as well, just with the basically overspray as well from the track weathering, and none of the ballast has been left without some form of toning down, so it's not too clean. Now that the sleeper grime has dried, and that's the track at the top here, it's just been coated in the sleeper grime on the side of the rails, several passes, and then a dusting around about the edge of the sleepers and obviously in between the rails. It's a bit browny, And for a depot, there's a lot of oil and sludge and basically muck around. So what I've done is I've used on the tracks at the left there, as you can see, some precision paints, oil leakings, and I've just lightly dusted the side of the rails to take that browny tinge off, and again just on top of the ballast as well, just to tone down that brown. It's still a browny tinge to it. I've not just gone over the sleeper grime in its entirety, it's just to give that oily appearance. Now obviously where locos are going to be sitting, i.e. At both sides of the sheds, etc., they're going to be a lot grimier, and I'm going to use the Hattons oil spill kit to really muck them up. The same with the sidings. Rails which get less use in the depot will be lightly oiled, if you like. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how I do the track to the right hand side there, which currently is just sleeper grime. I'm going to use the enamel, precision paints, oil leakings with an airbrush and just take off that overly browny tinge, and I'll do that to all the tracks in the depot area. After the paint's dried, you're obviously going to have the tops of the rails coated in paint, and that ain't going to work for running trains on it. So what you've got to do is you've got to remove that paint, okay? So it's like the rails at the right hand side here. All you do is the old trusty Pico or the Hornby track rubber and give it a good clean backwards and forwards, making sure you got all the paint off the surface, because the trains won't like paint getting in the way of the pickups, the contacts. And once you've done that, I would recommend you go over it with your vacuum cleaner to lift any of that debris, because again that dried paint gets into the mechanism, gets into the gears. It isn't going to be your loco's best friend. So make sure that you give the track a good vacuum. Then the track's ready to use. The product I'm going to be using in the next few clips is the Hattons oil spill kit, and that's part of their constructor range. And this kit contains 1 bag of track dirt and 1 bottle of oil spill solution. What I've done with the left hand rail is I've just gone over the top of the powder, as you can see here. I've just gone over that with a very light misting of water just to dampen it down, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some Woodland scenic cement, or you could use watered down PVA, just to wet the actual powder and leave it to dry. That's the powder now completely dry, and it's now ready to take the oil spill solution from the Hattons oil spills kit. And I'm going to apply this through an airbrush. I believe it gives a bit more control with regard to the amount you put down, and you can feather it around the outside sleepers and stuff as well. You can apply it with brush. It's water based, it dries fairly quickly, and obviously if you're using a brush or an airbrush, you just clean it out with hot water. So there's not an enamel solvent basis to this. The two tracks here are the result of the Hattons oil spill kit that I showed you working through there. I really am quite impressed with the kit. I've used photographs from Haymarket for this particular area where there is a kind of leaking and bleeding of some of the oil further away from the track and the sleepers, especially around about areas where locals would sit for a prolonged period of time. I'm going to put 2 buffer stops in there. The colours that I've seen being used in the kind of Scottish area are painted yellow, so they were painted yellow but given a toning down as well to blend in with the surrounding grime, if you like. And the shed will obviously be weathered to match in with the surrounding area, especially because I've obviously weathered all the ballast up into the bottom of the wall. But by using the same 3 or 4 shades of paint, it's easy to manipulate and blend in structures with the ballast. The fueling point itself is nothing new to the depot. It was one of the very first structures that I actually built for it. It's a Nightwing kit which I've adapted and fitted lights to. If I put it on, you might be able to see the lights there. There are 3 LEDs at each side of the canopy, and what I've done is I've whacked quite big resistors on them to dim them down a little bit. There's nothing worse than when you put a scene in darkness and the lights light up a mile around it. You're wanting a very kind of dim filament or fluorescent tube appearance, especially with these fueling points, which are quite dark, grimy, dirty places anyway. There it is in the dark. Obviously it's not lighting up the whole surrounding area. With the locals sitting either side getting refueled, I think it all looks the part. The final thing I'm going to add to the scene are these point heaters, and these are a white metal kit from Nightwing. Yesterday I cleaned them up, gave them a quick file, and because obviously some white metal castings aren't exactly the cleanest, took all the flash off, and then I primed them, just normal grey primer, gave them a bit of a Humber weathering powder to just tone them down a little bit. Obviously they're going to get grime and dirt sitting next to the track, and then I just sealed it with a matte varnish, and I would just take them off there. I just hold these things down with double-sided sticky tape, by the way, when I'm painting, and you just fit it near the turnout. The purpose of these obviously is to heat the switch gear or the blades to stop them freezing in the winter. I will have these at every single turnout around about the layout that is operated on the main line or by a point motor. The fueling point that I touched on earlier has now been given its track weathering in the Hattons oil kit, and it really is a grimy, grubby place on the depot. The tracks to the right off the screen are the stabling points, and basically that's where most of the sludge and the oil will have leaked from the locos as they sat. Just next to the wash plant there, you'll see a point lever. The points inside the depot are not electronically controlled, they are manually controlled, and these little things are from dark castings, the piece of metal anyway. I made the bases myself, and I'll zoom in on that in a second. Here's a closer look at the point levers, and it's sitting on a kind of base that I fabricated from plasticard, and the top's got a kind of wooden plank effect on it as well. You'll see there as well, just to the left of it, we've got a manhole or a drain with a cover on it, just again for a bit of detail. The far end of the depot as it stands just now is the Nightwing horizontal fuel storage facility, and I kit bashed that, and then I scratch built the wall and the steps as well. Just at the back of the shed there, you'll notice it's not been covered in a scenic material, it's just been brown painted just now. I'll be working on that in the next month. So hopefully from this view you can see the progress that I've made this month. As I said at the start of the video, it might not look a lot, but it's a lot of man hours up here. Weekends, you know, numerous evenings with the airbrush, building up the levels of grime, using the different colours, preparing it, just, you know, trying to follow the photographs as best I can with the tones of paint that I had available. This depot has really been complete in regard to track layout since about 2016. The tracks were all laid when the Hornby magazine came to visit in July 2016, and it's been bare plywood ever since. And it's really good in the last 8 weeks to get the ballast down, the big shed completed, and then put the weathering tones on. It really has been enjoyable and challenging, and it's taken me a heck of a lot of time. I hope you think that it has been worth my efforts. It's not complete. There's still scratch building to do for the low relief stuff at the back between the shed and the depot office, so that'll take my time for the next few months at least. And then you've got the retaining wall at the front there between the upper and the lower sections. If you have any questions on what you've seen regarding this, please do get in touch and I'll try and answer them the best I can. I say it's not finished yet, I'll keep working, but I really am impressed to see it all starting to come together. Thanks for watching. Happy modelling.